hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. Eliot Shorr-Parks, James Seltzer with you. We always do the win really felt like a loss. Who do we blame for the win? Man. And
boy, oh boy.
I said to him, I texted you and Jack in like the late third quarter. And I was like, no matter what happens, this is already a loss in quotes. And I did say to him like late, I was like, well, at least like pull this out. Like, at least like,
right.
Don't let this season be over. But yeah, look, I think there's some positives to take away from today in a couple spots. But on the whole, like, man, the Browns looked just as bad as we thought they would. And, the Eagles won by 4. How you doing, pal?
So doing good. So look, I think that
3-2,
right? Maybe we should do the obligatory. I'm not one to ever take a win for granted. Blah blah blah.
It's hard to win games in the NFL.
Yeah, right?
Elliot.
We can certainly use a win after that. Blah blah blah.
Has anyone ever said that? Has anyone ever said it's hard to win a game in the NFL?
I'm guessing we're going to hear a lot of that from Nick Sirianni in a few minutes. But no, I mean here's what I would say in all seriousness. Like, that was super disappointing, right? They won the game, and look, on a day where I believe Washington lost, or at least is going to lose.
Yeah, Washington's down 7 with a couple minutes left, and Baltimore has the ball. So.
Yeah, so, a win is a win in the way that their main objective here is to get to the postseason, win the division, and this is a step in the right direction. But let's just be honest here. That was exactly what we all feared. Like, obviously, outside of the win, I mean, we talked to Go Birds callers all day on Sunday that were like, nah, they're not going to play that well. And guess what happened? They didn't play that well. I mean, to have that game be tied at halftime, first of all, super disappointing. Offense doesn't come out and make that statement that we all wanted to see. They didn't look way better. But let's just, if we're going to have one positive here, let's just say this. Thank God they have A.J. Brown. If they don't have A.J. Brown,
what a superstar.
They lose
what a
again.
superstar.
Yeah. And this is
the strongest hands I've ever seen in my life on those the two biggest of the touchdown. And then obviously the basket catch at the end, his ability to just let the ball touch his hands and it'd be like a vice grip is unbelievable.
Now, the good news is they will have A.J. Brown, right? Barring another injury, he'll be here all year. But to me, today, this just looked like a bad offense that was lucky they had A.J. Brown. Now, Devontae Smith made a big play. A.J. Brown made a big play. I thought Saquon was pretty good. But it felt a little bit like Brazil in the way where it wasn't pretty to watch. But when you have special players, you cannot play pretty all game, and you can come away with a win. Now, they only scored 20 points in this game. They don't have the 34, whatever it was that they got in Brazil. But, yeah, I mean, A.J. Brown, first of all, the catch on the touchdown was unbelievable. He's getting, pulled down basically as he makes it. The play at the end of the game, let me tell you.
What, dude? Unbelievable. It wasn't a bad throw, but it wasn't a great throw. Like, it was a unbelievable catch.
Like, you watch the replay of that, it drops to him and he somehow knows it's coming, holds on to it. But
and to control his body to keep the cornerback behind him while slowing down and leaving himself that basket.
Yeah.
Like, that was, man, he's so special. And I mean, for them to they got so aggressive there at the end throwing.
Well, so that's what I was about to
say. That
say.
was wild. You lost a game with the Falcons game throw. Like, that was crazy.
Well, and so that play kind of encapsulates this whole game for me in a way where, like, yes, it worked. They got the win. It worked because they have A.J. Brown. They won because of A.J. Brown. But what are you doing there?
There's so many, Elliot, many what are you doing moments.
Yes, exactly.
I had that exact phrase in my head throughout the game. I kept thinking, I'm like, so many what are you doing here things.
Well, it's like the Seattle last year where they throw it deep. Washington last year, now again, it works, but they throw it deep. Like, I don't know what the play call is there. But here's the bottom line. That I will be curious to see the reaction to this game, but my guess is people are going to be very mad tomorrow. And I think that they should be mad. And frankly, I said on the pregame show that the most important person in this building today is Jeffrey Lurie. Now, obviously, he owns the building, so he is obviously one of the most important people every time he's in it. But today, if you're Jeffrey Lurie, he's probably meeting with Nick Sirianni right now. And he meets with Nick after every game. I wonder what that meeting is like. There is no way they are in that meeting talking and going, hey, a win's a win. It happens. This team looked unprepared to start the bye week.
Coming out of the bye.
Nothing looked different on offense. If anything, it was taking the ball out of Jalen's hands, and I don't think
that's my God.
play.
Like, Kellen Moore, where are you, dude? Like, what's going on?
Well, so look, here's what I would say when it comes to Kellen Moore versus Nick versus Jalen.
And it's all of them.
It's all of them.
I know. But to be fair, Jalen, at least on the field, like, I don't think he had a bad game. Like, and biggest, can't go too far in without I think the biggest positive of the day, Tucker told me, first game since the San Francisco game last year where they didn't turn the ball over.
Yep. Like, absolutely a positive.
Man,
there.
now you had a blocked field goal. We'll get to that, but go ahead.
No, I mean, I think this one's on Nick. Like, I think Jalen played well enough. He didn't play well to start. Obviously, he's 0 for 5. They're just kind of throwing it up down the field to AJ and Devontae and seeing what happens. But Nick, man, you got to have your team better than this. The Cleveland Browns are not a good team. And honestly, the defense did their job. If we want to say that,
totally,
Vic Fangio is the head coach of the defense did their job. The defense dominated a bad offensive line. And I'm encouraging to see, right? Like, obviously,
there were a couple like second and third and long conversions that were annoying.
Yeah, I think Deshaun Watson in the second half was like 11 for 12 or something.
Yeah, like he was exactly. He was dicing him. Like the you want to concern is that they didn't, but we came into this saying, hey, this is a beat up offensive line. They lose their their backup center, who's their starting center, like right into the game. Like it is a little frustrating. And I know they got some pressure throughout the game, but they weren't all over. It was better, but it wasn't dominant.
I thought they were close to dominant. I mean, I think they had 5 sacks on the day. They got to Deshaun Watson. I agree, it wasn't like they completely wrecked it, especially late when Deshaun Watson got going a little bit.
I think it's that the Browns offense got better as it went along, and that's where it's like
there was a little bit more of a pocket. I would agree
totally
as it went on. Deshaun Watson had a little more time, but the defense only gave up 9 points. So like at the end of the day,
I agree with you, 100% agree.
The bad thing about this game was the offense, and what should have been the best thing about this game was the offense. They got AJ back. They got Devontae. I mean, look, if I would have told you before the game they'd have no turnovers, Devontae and AJ would both catch a touchdown, the defense would give up 9 points, we would be sitting here and going,
they must have whooped them.
Yeah, but they didn't. I mean, to only win that game by 4 points. And also, let's be honest, I haven't seen the call. It might have been the correct call, but Deshaun Watson getting that first down called back when he was at like the 4 or 5 yard line. If that doesn't get called back, I think the Browns probably end up scoring. Maybe they don't.
Which call?
Well. It was in the fourth quarter. He ran for a first down. I think it was maybe a personal foul call or a flag, and they get pushed back 15 yards.
I don't remember many penalties at the end there that weren't warranted for what it's worth.
Right, yeah, it might have. No, I'm saying it might have been a good call, but I'm just like the Browns had their chances here.
The Eagles got lucky in some spots for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Keely Ringo call was a good call. Down that sideline.
It was.
It's just again, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but I feel like it's an important thing to say. It's just another game where you leave and you wish that you felt better about how the team was playing. The number one thing I heard in this press box from everybody up here was they're lucky they're playing the Cleveland Browns. And that's 100% true. Now, the good news is they're playing a lot of Cleveland Browns coming up. They have the Giants next week. They have the Jaguars, who might have a new head coach by the time they play the Jaguars. They have the Bengals, who could be out of playoff contention. So they're going to rack some wins up, you would think. But playing this brand of football, they're not a Super Bowl contender. They have not looked like a Super Bowl contender all year. They didn't look like one at the end of last year. Maybe they'll stack up wins, but they just don't look like a well-coached, prepared team. And a lot of times I put that on Jalen because of turnovers and all. This one's on Nick today. Like, you had 2 weeks to get your team to come out and play better than they did today. 2 weeks to come out against a bad Browns team and make a statement. Like, this place, I'll say this about the fans. They were all here going crazy. There was a nervous tension in the building for sure. Like, when they go 3 and out on the first drive or whatever it was, there's boos. Like, this fan base is pretty fed up with Nick. And today was his chance to come out and put on a good performance with his football team, and they absolutely did not do that. Again, to be tied 10-10, look, they should have been trailing. If that Browns kicker doesn't miss the field goal, they should have been down 13-10. They looked no different coming out of the bye. No changes, no nothing. They look like the exact same team they've been for a year and a half, and that has to be on Nick. As much as Jalen has to be better, sooner or later, you got to be the solution. Like, if you're the head coach, you got to be the solution. And they look like this same team week after week after week.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think there's no question coming out of this, Nick is the biggest issue. I got more, will they fire him if they lose? Will they fire him if they win text than any other.
We put out a poll. It was like, would you prefer lose and fire Nick? And that won, which.
Dude, it is. And look, you have definitely been a big Nick defender, and you're on here saying it. And we'll get to Jalen in a second, but I don't think there's any question that by far the biggest and I mean, if you want to put Kellen Moore in there too, because I do think the lack of creativity offensively coming out of the bye, the lack of interesting ways to use Saquon, like all that type of stuff coming out of the bye is unbelievable. Another first quarter without points, like the whole thing. But for this team, like I always in 2022, 2017, like one of my big things watching a team is like hallmarks of great teams are teams that show up ready to play every single Sunday or Monday or whatever it is. It's like, okay, it's game time. Let's freaking go. Like 2017, we knew that team was going to show the hell up, like whatever it was. Like we had to figure out the quarterback thing after the injury and all that. But like 2022, like they were going to show up. They were ready to play
points on like every team that year.
Exactly. And they were going to, you're right, jump on teams, but also not play stupid football. We weren't going to watch games where we were like, oh, you beat yourselves. You deserve to lose because you did this wrong, that wrong. Like this team looks so poorly coached and so just poorly like uniform as a group. Like I am so with you on this that it just feels like this team doesn't come prepared to play. And I think that's part of the first quarter thing. Like part of it's obviously their first 15 and all that. And that's on Kellen and Nick and whatever. But I also think part of it is this team just never shows up like hitting the ground running ever. Well, like not today, since like 2022, even last year when they were winning the 10-1 streak, a lot of those games were second half comebacks. Like they just are super sloppy and don't come ready to play.
And today was the worst one because you get the ball first.
The bye against a horrible team.
With all your guys back, did they have 4 possessions in the first quarter? They had at least 2 or 3. Like they got the ball first. I know one of those drives extended into the second quarter. But yeah, no, you're 100% right that the team doesn't come out and look crisp or clean. They just don't. They do not look like a team that is coming out and ready to send a message. I mean, you bring back the 2022 team, and I'll say this about them too. When they played bad teams, they smoked those teams.
Big time, dude.
Doesn't smoke any team they play, let alone a bad team. And I think that,
who again, can I just say, like, was like as bad as we thought watching them play.
Yeah,
like even though it was a close game, like you could just watch it and be like, Myles Garrett's great. Like there are a couple players, whatever. Like they are so bad. Deshaun Watson is so horrendous.
Well, and so here's the concerning thing to me. If this was a 2021 pod and we were talking about it, we would come on and say, good win. You come out of a bye, you may be rusty for 2 weeks, you squeak, get a win, you're 3-2 after 5 games.
Learn how to win close games.
But it's not 2021. No. Like if the objective here is just to make the playoffs, then yeah, we could do a pod talking about how this is a gritty win and they didn't turn the ball over and that's a step in the right direction and they went to Brazil and New Orleans and they're 3-2. But that's not the objective of this team. The objective of this team is to win the Super Bowl, or at the very least win a playoff game or 2. And they don't look like a team that can win a playoff game or 2. The tough thing they're going to run into is like what they have going for them. And this came out today. AJ and Devontae and Saquon are special players, right?
Mm-hmm.
But real quick, injury note, Jordan Mailata left the game. Darius left the game. Goddard left the game. So that's going to be something to worry about.
And the Mailata one, I don't know if you could see it from like in the game, but like he was hobbling they said a hamstring that looks that bad in the moment for a guy like him. You never know, but like I would prepare yourselves to not have Jordan Mailata for a little while.
Yeah. Okay. So
I mean, don't you think? I mean, hamstrings. We know
and he's a big guy. 100%.
He looked like he couldn't. They brought the card out. I know you don't want to push it, but like he looked like he was in a lot of pain with that hamstring.
But just to wrap up the point about like 2021. Is that the standard should be higher for this team. They should be
way higher,
further along than they are. Like 2022, obviously you make the Super Bowl, but it has been a steady decline since then. It just has been. And it's just hard to feel good after a win like that. Like we could come on here and say it's a win, but it's just, we all saw it. We all watch it. And now you could argue like the standards are maybe high, set high for this team, but they should be. They have all this talent. For AJ to do what he did today, you should be scoring more than 20 points. I thought Saquon actually played really well. Now, he did have that mistake, I will say, at the end of the first half.
Yeah, missing the block.
Nope.
Well, you're talking about that one. But he missed a big block, too.
He missed a big block as well, but he catches a ball on 2nd and 1, doesn't get a first down where there's like nobody around him. He misses a block. So mistakes were made. But that's the thing. And I was saying this to Tucker at the during the halftime show pod thing. Like, this is what bad teams do. Like, Saquon really good throughout the game, but he misses a key block that results in a sack. They mostly dominate the first half to an extent. They should be up like 17 or 13-3. Instead, they get a block field goal for a touchdown. Defensive line dominates mostly all game. Deshaun Watson goes like 10 for 11 in the second half, and it's close. Like, that's what bad teams do. Bad teams keep other bad teams in the game. Like, I had some of my friends that are, Giants fans and reporters, and like, they're texting me being like, yeah, the Giants are going to beat them next week. Like, this team doesn't fear anybody, and it should fear people when you have that type of talent. Like,
doesn't put fear into anybody.
Yeah, true. Yeah. When I said that, I thought I sounded wrong.
This team should be fearing other teams.
This team, it doesn't put the fear in anybody.
You can barely beat the Browns. We knew they weren't going to cover. Like,
right.
It was just so obvious. It was like I couldn't pick against them, but it's like of course they're not. Like,
they can't put a complete game together, and that falls on Nick. Like, again, like
100%.
Last year when me and you did the whole Brian Johnson versus players thing, my whole issue with that was more like a scheme thing, right? I'm not saying the scheme looks bad, and I'm sure we'll get into that.
It does, but yeah.
I'm saying, like,
if nothing else, it looks average, but I agree with you. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that.
Like, the overall team just looks unprepared every week.
You can't be Nick Sirianni in the situation he's been in with the what do you do and the CEO head coach and not have like all the details that you can take care of super buttoned up. Like, your team should be crisp. They should be ready to go. They should know exactly where they're supposed to be in the formation, this and that, everything. Like that. What you can control should be perfect because you're not doing the other stuff.
Now, if we want to try to have one positive spin to this, it could be that if they make the playoffs, they clearly have talent to make difference making.
I was going to say, like, that Packers team last year that went 9-8, got hot towards the end of the season. Like, they didn't win it, but they absolutely could have beaten the Niners and could have beaten anyone. Like, they're super talented with young guys who didn't know any better and all that. Like, you never know. So I do think with any given Sunday in terms of talent and something we've talked about a ton more, I just don't think there's any teams that are way better. I think Mahomes is way better than everyone, but I don't think there are any teams that are way better than everyone. So to your point, if you can get in there and you're grooving at the right time, the Eagles are absolutely talented enough to go on a run, especially with injuries and attrition and however that plays out for every team.
And unfortunately, we just saw that with the team that plays across the street, right? Like
100%.
the Phillies won a ton of games during the regular season. The Phillies looked like the best team in baseball. The Eagles haven't looked anything close like the best team in football. But you know what? It just doesn't matter right now outside of power rankings. Yeah. The tough thing is it's just a hard team to watch. It just is. That's the best way to put it. Like, they're not coached well enough to capitalize on all their talent. That's the best way I can put it. Like, now the players have to be better too, right? Like, it's not all on Nick, but someone has to get the team to play better. And Nick has not been able to do it for a year and 5 games. So yeah, I mean, they get a win. They move to 3-2. Washington loses. Like, in a way, you can look at this if you didn't have to watch this.
Dallas is playing the Lions this afternoon.
Like, if you were on a flight with, no internet and you land at 9:00 tonight, you could land and go, wow, the Eagles won, Washington lost, Dallas lost, no turnovers by Jalen. Like, there we go. What a day it was. But the people that weren't on the plane and had to watch that 4 hours know that this was another example of the team just not looking great. And I think that's the most concerning and disappointing thing is we did that whole Go Bird show about will they come out?
It was a must cover game.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Yeah.
They did.
Real quick,
and to be honest, quickly, they didn't even come close to covering.
No. They were. Let's put this way: they were closer to losing than to covering. We're going to overtime, 100%. If nothing else. Quickly, because I know you got to go. And look, we'll get into Jalen more in the week. I think Jalen was okay. I thought he made some big throws, but and he didn't turn the ball over, and that's credit and stuff. And we'll see where he goes.
I'm not close to turning it over.
Yeah, so, it was a fine performance from Jalen. I thought he was solid. I think Nick's the big culprit again in the win. But one quick thing, I know you have to go to get to the locker room, but like Michael Clay, I mean, we have now had a block punt and a touchdown or led to one, and no, it didn't. I guess the defense held it, but still a block punt and a block field goal for a touchdown that like totally changed the fortune of this game. Like, who knows what we're saying if that didn't happen? Michael Clay had a really good year last year. Was kind of the end 2022 was kind of the one coach we weren't upset with. We got to call it like we see it. That's 2 massive backwards plays.
For sure.
So
Now,
quick thoughts on that.
I will say and I've only seen one replay of the kick. It was a pretty impressive play by that guy to jump over the line.
It was Myles Garrett.
Oh,
it was Myles
okay,
Garrett.
Yeah.
So yes, it was, but even still, it is
100%.
bottom line pod, like you said.
Well, here's the other thing, too, is that in 2022, the special teams, we kept saying all year, it's going to hurt them, it's going to hurt them, and it hurt them. Now, that team was better, but this team's going to be playing a lot of really close games. They're not going to be blowing people out. In 2022, we were talking about it for the playoffs because you assume it's going to be close there. The issue is this team is going to be playing close games against bad teams. So the special teams has to be a net positive for this team because the way you lose these close games are special teams mistakes, turnovers, and today they only did one of the two, so they win. But yeah, it's So apparently Nick was yelling at fans. I just saw a text about this.
Oh, great. So I don't know about that.
Nice. I'm sure that'll go over well. This will be yeah. Dude, I'll say this about Nick too quickly, then I'll get down there. Yeah. He was yelling back and forth with Greg Newsome, to where the point Greg Newsome to Brown's corner had to be pulled back.
It's great.
Yeah, not good. Not a good day for Nick. And I'll be curious to hear why he shaved his head.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get into more of this week. Obviously, we'll have all kinds of pods and reaction, and check out the daily pod tomorrow too. But they won. They're 3-2, and we all feel like crap. Yeah. What a fun time in Philly sports. All right, we'll be back this week. Look, again, to Elliot's earlier point. Look, if they've got some, and despite the Giants being a losable game and certainly a winnable game, they have some winnable games coming up. If they can get on a run, we know that winning breeds positivity and success. There is confidence.
They have to get at the right time.
Yep. We'll see what happens, but certainly a bummer of a win today. So that might be the title, a bummer of a win. We nailed it. All right, go to the locker room. We'll be back later in the week. Until then, he's Elliot James.